You buy your dream home, a quiet suburban street, the smell of freshly mowed grass, the hum of children laughing nearby. Beautiful old trees line the sidewalks, a yard big enough for summer barbecues, birthdays, and endless memories. It's everything you ever wanted. A place to start a new chapter in your life, a place you can finally call your own. But then, something arrives. A letter. Dearest new neighbor at 657 Boulevard, allow me to welcome you. I've been watching this house for decades, and now it's your turn. No name, no return address, just a chilling sign-off. The Watcher. This isn't a ghost story. This isn't folklore passed down from generation to generation. This happened right here, in a peaceful, affluent town in New Jersey, a place that seemed as normal as any other. Yet to this day, no one knows who the Watcher really was, or why they had such a strange, unsettling obsession with the house at 657 Boulevard. In June of 2014, Derek and Maria Broaddus thought they had found their forever home. They had worked hard, saved up, and finally closed on 657 Boulevard, a majestic 6-bedroom colonial-style house built in 1905. A house full of history and charm, nestled in a picturesque neighborhood in Westfield, New Jersey. The area was one of the safest in the country. A town with tree-lined streets, well-kept homes, and excellent schools. Everything a young family could wish for. The Broadduses had 3 young children. They saw the house as the perfect place to raise their family, a house where their kids could run, play, and grow. But soon after they moved in, the dream started to unravel. Derek was the first to check the mailbox. Among the usual junk mail and bills, there was a white envelope, unmarked and handwritten. When he opened it, the letter was chilling, but it began innocuously enough. 657 Boulevard has been the subject of my family for decades now. I've been put in charge of watching and waiting for its second coming. The letter mentioned the Broadduses by name, although misspelled, and referred to their children as young blood. But it didn't stop there. The writer seemed to know intimate details of the renovations they had begun inside the house, information that only their contractors had known. Whoever wrote this letter had been watching them. They were not some distant observer, they were close. And worse yet, it seemed as though the Watcher felt entitled to the house. Not just any house, but this specific one. The one the Broadduses had just moved into. Just when Derek and Maria thought it might have been a one-time incident, another letter arrived, and then a third. The tone of the letters was even darker, more sinister. It was clear that whoever was writing them was enjoying the fear they were causing. The Watcher wasn't just watching, they were engaging, manipulating. Have they found what's in the walls yet? In time they will. It will help me to know who is in which bedroom, so I can plan better. The letters were obsessive, disturbingly so. The Watcher claimed that the house had been under their watch for generations, that their family had been tasked with its care, its protection, or perhaps something far darker. The Watcher spoke of the house as though it had a personality, a need that demanded fulfillment. Do you need to fill the house with the young blood I requested? Better for me. Maria was horrified. Derek was stunned, but both of them were trapped. They couldn't leave the house, not now, after everything they had invested. But they were afraid to stay. No one could help. They contacted the police and an official investigation began, but it turned up nothing. No fingerprints, no credible leads. The letters were mailed from a postal facility in Kearny, New Jersey, but that didn't narrow down the sender much. They hired a private investigator. Then they brought in a former FBI profiler. The profiler suggested the writer might be someone older, someone who had the time and the inclination to monitor the house for years, possibly even decades. At first, Derek and Maria thought the writer might be a disgruntled neighbor, someone who had lost out on the sale of the house, or someone who resented the new owners. But there were no clear suspects. Everyone was a potential culprit, and yet no one seemed to know anything. It was maddening. As the months passed, the Broadduses' nightmare only deepened. Despite having spent over $1 million on their dream home, they never moved in. Instead, they stayed with Maria's parents while trying to figure out what to do next. They installed security cameras, kept the lights on timers, and doubled their efforts to investigate the source of the letters. But despite their precautions, they never felt safe. The house sat empty, a beautiful yet haunting shell. The bedrooms, those rooms that were meant to be filled with the laughter of their children, remained eerily silent. Maria and Derek never allowed their kids to play in the yard, terrified that they might attract the attention of the watcher. As they searched for answers, they learned that the previous owners of the house, the Woods family, had received a single anonymous letter just before they moved out. But they had dismissed it as a prank, never thinking it would escalate to what the Broadduses were now experiencing. Derek and Maria felt trapped. They wanted to leave the house, but they couldn't afford to. They began to explore other options, selling the house, renting it out. But every effort was thwarted. The rumors in the neighborhood began to spread. Were they faking it? Was this some elaborate scam to get out of their mortgage? Why weren't they acting like normal buyers who were trying to make a life in their new home? But the Broadduses weren't scammers. They weren't profiting from the situation. They were losing money, paying out of pocket for security systems, legal fees, and private investigations. The idea that they would fake something as terrifying as this seemed far-fetched, even to the most cynical observers. And then came the final letter. It was the most chilling of all. You wonder who the watcher is. Turn around, idiots. Maybe you even spoke to me, one of the so-called neighbors who has no idea who the watcher could be. Or maybe you do know and are too scared to tell anyone. I am in charge of 657 Boulevard. It is not time for it to leave. It was written in the 1920s. It was watched in the 1960s. It is now my time. I have waited for this day. And now you are scared. The tone of the letter was almost triumphant, as if the watcher believed they had finally won. The Broadduses felt like they were losing their grip on reality. Despite the countless investigations, both public and private, the identity of the watcher was never uncovered. The police had no leads, and private investigators found no concrete evidence, no fingerprints, no DNA, no suspects. No one could confirm anything. Many theories surfaced. Some believed the watcher was a neighbor, someone who lived close by and felt an obsessive connection to the house. Perhaps someone who had lived there for decades, watching the home change hands. Others speculated it was a person who had been rejected in the bidding process and harbored a deep resentment for the new owners. Then there were the more cynical theories, that the Broadduses themselves were responsible for the entire affair. Some suggested that they were simply trying to get out of a bad financial situation, faking a terrorizing experience in order to escape the mortgage and financial burden. However, the details in the letters didn't match a hoax. The writing was too meticulous, too carefully constructed. The obsession with the house, the repeated references to its history, were not things a person could easily fabricate. The letters had the unmistakable feel of someone who had been watching, studying, and waiting for years. Finally, in 2019, after 5 years of living in terror, the Broadduses decided to sell the house. They let it go for nearly $400,000 less than they had paid for it. But after the sale, the letters stopped. The new owners? They never received a single letter. What happened? Was the watcher's focus solely on the Broaddus family? Did something they did, or stopped doing, trigger the end of the letters? Or was the watcher's obsession purely with the house, with the property itself? The mystery remains unsolved. Today, 657 Boulevard still stands, a beautiful home on a quiet street in Westfield, New Jersey. But something about it is forever changed. Something about it feels different. The house holds secrets that will never be fully understood. The Broadduses may have left. The letters may have stopped. But the questions remain. Who was the watcher? Why did they choose that house? And most chilling of all, could they return? What do you think? Was it a disgruntled neighbor? A twisted obsession with the house's history? Or something darker? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. If you're fascinated by real horror stories like this one, make sure to hit the subscribe button and join the community. Because sometimes the scariest monsters aren't the ones that live in the dark. They're the ones watching you from next door.